The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back with my in-studio guest, the governor of Guam, of course, fresh from his trip from, of course, the Governor's Convention, is it? Right?
We had the Republican Governor's Conference in Florida,
and
then Washington, D.C., then Region 9.
Then Region 9. Governor, let me ask you this. Recently, the legislature, Guam legislature, I think the author of the resolution was Senator Frank Uggan Jr., I think it was. The resolution, I think, that was unanimously passed, I think that was, in regards to the retention of the district court judge, asking, say, hey, you know, look, President-elect Trump, keep the district court judge there. She's done a good job and all that. But we know in politics, it's the game of politics, you know, the winner or the loser, or you're the outgoing, so goes the spoils, okay, the new administration. What are your thoughts on the Republicans voting in favor of that? As a Republican governor, you should be able to have your own nominee to the District Court of Guam?
And of course, the legislative body, you know, they are a separate branch of government, so I understand that. And by the way, if you're talking about, again, our district court judge, you know, Francis Tydinko Gatewood and I, we get along very well. Obviously, in some areas, we have disagreements in certain areas. And in other areas, we complement each other in where we see things in terms of this island community. Of course, she has a different responsibility. But that being said, too, with a new incoming administration there that happens to be Republican, and we know the political process in the United States, that there will be a look at all federally appointed positions, and with that examination, evaluation of these positions, there will be some discussions by folks within the Trump administration on the leadership. And of course, I am the governor of Guam, and at the same time I happen to be a Republican. So with that, you know, there will be some input and that I have in regards to this process. So I respect the legislature. At the same time, I understand also my role not only as a governor, but my role as also the head of the Republican Party in Guam. And, you know, whatever decisions or whatever recommendations I make, these are all just recommendations. They can be taken or not. But with these recommendations, I would also look towards what I do believe in a positions as important as this, a lot of deep thought on that. So I respect them for what they've for their resolution.
I remember Lenny was the U.S. attorney. I think it was under the Camacho administration, and then of course the Obama administration. Of course, she was appointed. But I hope you'll be able to get a say so on that.
There is this is interesting because you have a Republican president, and you have a Republican House and Republican Senate. You know, the big issue here for many people that voted for Trump, even the ones that may not have liked him, is the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, the court system, it is so important to fill those positions, and whether it's at the level of the Supreme Court
or lower, or lower
at
level.
lower courts, based on a philosophy of the party in place.
That's right.
And so, you know, you have the Republican mindset, which has been more towards a strict interpretation of the Constitution and very strong lines between branches of government, and ensuring that one branch of government doesn't overreach in certain areas. And ultimately for justice and justice under law, where everyone is treated fairly. Now, obviously, in the more liberal progressive side of things, there's a more liberal interpretation, and they call it judicial activism. So I'm sure that as President-elect Trump and the Congress look towards decisions made at all levels when it comes to appointments of those that will sit in a judicial branch, whether it's a district court or the Supreme Court, they will be looking at folks and where they stand on things as well.
Now, that segues us into this point. Just recently, I think it was Friday when they voted in the bills, the medicinal marijuana, the home cultivation was passed, I think 8-7, I think the vote was. It's going to go on your desk for action, okay? Now, that being said, the people who go out and voted for medicinal marijuana, now you have home cultivation, that's allowed. The Obama administration was a little more liberal on that, kind of look the other way. Let's look at other more pertinent situations here. The Trump Pence administration, more conservative. Now, how is that? How would that mesh? Because it's still a Schedule 1, and now the laws of Guam, or yet to be laws. I mean, how's that?
I'll look at it the local perspective. As this thing has moved along, and the people have spoken, they want to see the
medicinal
use of
marijuana
for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
So the people have spoken. I'm not questioning that. I do believe that as these laws have been enacted, they've made it so complicated to the point where there's unfunded mandates being presented to the local government, and whether it's through public health, Department of Agriculture, Rev and Tax, some of our people are giving estimates close to $10 million to fund the regulation of medicinal marijuana. So this is going to be further complicated by these other pieces of legislation that are coming down the pike. I just met with the treasurer of Nevada, and he was at the Republican Governors Conference. He was sitting right next to me at dinner, and I asked him, because Nevada, it's medicinal.
Sure.
Excuse me, it was not Nevada. He was the treasurer of Colorado.
Oh, Colorado, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Recreational there.
So it went recreational. And of course, he said the problem was starting out medicinal. It got it so darn complicated. And so now with it recreational, it has become such a difficult industry to regulate and to tax properly. So, my comments to the legislature is they've given me such a tremendous burden in terms of an unfunded mandate. Maybe we've got to look at the states and where things have worked and where they've failed. If we're going to go down this road, maybe, and I'm not saying I agree with it, other than we should look at how things have been made less complicated so we don't have these unfunded federal local mandates, is do what some of the states have done, which is legalize
it.
And with the legalization of it, tax it. So making it much more simple to regulate, and then at the same time, getting revenues through the taxation of this as commerce, where we can then feed money into areas such as behavioral health and wellness, or medical, our Medicaid program. Maybe that would make things a lot less complicated for all of us, because at this point, things have gotten too complicated and too expensive. Now I'm saying that, but I'm qualifying it.
Sure.
Because I wasn't for this from the very beginning, but the people have spoken.
If you're going to do it,
but now in the other end of things, we have potentially a new
industry or
Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Jeff Sessions and the Trump administration. Potentially, this guy has a very strong track record when it comes to marijuana. And rather than liberalizing it, we may see where the federal government may go in a different direction. So I have to throw that in, that as a qualifier, though I see locally things are getting more complicated, and maybe we better look at a way to simplify everything that would suit not only those that are, would like to see the legalization of marijuana, but then at the same time, make it so we can actually regulate it and have some productive benefit of it in this community on one hand, but then on the other hand, we got to see what happens in the federal level.
Yeah, because that being said, there will be a difference between what the states do versus what the federal government does, because the federal government, to make it a lot easier on the states, is the federal government to reclassify marijuana, remove it from a class 1, right? And doing so, and so that being said, I guess it's probably highly unlikely that it would be reclassified. Sure,
but the thing that's interesting, the Republicans also believe that the states are the laboratories for social policies. And what has happened, and this is where you may have a very conservative attorney general,
but given the power to,
but you also look at President-elect Trump, who's something very unique in the history of the United States. I don't know whether you can call him conservative or liberal or what.
Something in the middle.
But he's somewhere in the middle. He's a populist. But you're seeing now states through referendums have moved in a direction towards a more liberal use of marijuana,
Yeah.
whether it's medicinal
Yeah.
or recreational.
But see, I go back to the question of, would we be classified or considered as a state? would we be looked at as a state? Because yeah, it'd be great if we were looked at that.
Yeah.
But it says, well, you're not really quite this. When Obama basically fought and said, hey, you guys
Yeah.
are second-class citizens and all that. You don't have the powers of the state, and we know we don't.
Yeah.
But the fact remains.
Well, see what can be complicated too.
Yeah.
Currently, you know, if you look at the enactment in California of marijuana and the referendum in marijuana now is recreational.
Yeah.
So you're going to have now the state of California, where Guam has so much contact with, where marijuana is now legal.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
with that, you can bet your bottom dollar you're going to start seeing some issues of movement of marijuana through illegal. Now, remember, the federal government controls transportation, but there is just going to be, because of what is happening in the liberalization in California, some issues in regards to marijuana, maybe a little bit more complicated in more marijuana maybe illegally going towards Guam from California.
Governor, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. You know what? I want to talk to you again after the inauguration, the Trump-Pence administration. Maybe in a couple of years, maybe we'll lobby to get the president to nominate you to be a cabinet member. That'd be great. Wouldn't that be great to come from the islands? Maybe your wife.
I'd be honored to something like that. Man, I really love the island of Guam. Our people, isn't this paradise? Especially when you look at what's happening in the States. It's snowing in a lot of places, and it's a nice 80 degrees here in Guam.
There we go. There we go. Governor, thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you.
Hey, join me tomorrow morning in the Buzz. This is 63. We'll talk more about this and maybe what's in Guam's future when the Trump-Pence administration takes power come January. See you then.
Close